Given how the dominant culture has taught modern women to view marriage, is it any surprise that men are frightened to death of it? Listen to this out of the Huffington Post. Why I Question My Marriage Regularly by Melanie Hoagland.
I question my marriage all the time. When my husband and I get into a fight because he's so stubborn it pisses me off to the point of throwing things across the room, I ask myself if it's possible for us to peacefully coexist. When I feel disappointed because he doesn't spoil me with presents or capitulate to all my demands, I ask myself if he is really capable of giving me everything that I need. I know that, if push came to shove, I don't need him.
Throwing things across the room because he disagrees. Hating him because he doesn't capitulate to your every demand and shower you with gifts. What man would want to endure this insufferable, spoiled, whiny brat for a lifetime of marriage? Suzanne Venker asked men why they're no longer interested in getting married. The answer? Women aren't women anymore. Men are tired, Venker wrote. Tired of being told there's something fundamentally wrong with them. Tired of being told that if women aren't happy, it's men's fault. Radical feminism is teaching women to view men as the enemy, to shame them simply for being men, to pathologize masculine behavior, to immediately view their motives with suspicion. So is it any surprise that more and more men are checking out of marriage and relationships altogether and joining the sexodus? In a recent article, Catholic priest Charles Pope wrote, "In my mere 26 years of priesthood, I have seen the number of weddings I perform each year decrease from 35 to 5, and the average age of engaged couples increase from 24 to 31. Figures show that fewer young men want to get married than ever before. Just 29% of American men now see a successful marriage as one of the most important things in life. Since 1960, the number of married adults has decreased from 72% to 51%. Just 20% of Americans aged 18 to 29 are married, compared with 59% in 1960. Men are abandoning marriage in droves because none of the benefits it used to bring even apply anymore. Men once married for sex. Now sex before marriage is the norm, despite studies showing that couples who wait are significantly happier. The ubiquitous availability of porn also further diminishes the necessity for men to seek out a sexual partner. In the future, female sex bots will make actual women obsolete for some men. Men no longer need to marry to get guaranteed sex. Marriage was once viewed by society as a status symbol. Married men were held in high esteem. Now marriage is frowned upon. It's seen as something people do when they've given up on youth and abandoned fun and adventure. While the dominant culture will celebrate gay marriage all day long, heterosexual marriage is shit upon by endless portrayals of the drudgery of married life, the arguments, the claustrophobia, the loss of personal freedom. When in reality, numerous studies show that married people are happier and live longer than singles. Monogamy itself is also increasingly viewed as quaint, naive, or even pathetic and uncool. The disease of nihilism brought with it rampant promiscuity. The dominant culture, mainly through feminism, has made young men ashamed of their masculinity, stripping them of confidence when it comes to approaching women. This in turn led to the rise of player culture, or the game, which also treats monogamy with disdain. Onerous divorce courts and laws designed to screw over men have also made countless millions of men think twice before popping the question. The evisceration of traditional gender roles has also wrought a terrible toll, not just on marriage, but on male-female relationships in general. Men were once needed by women to be the breadwinners, and it's a role they happily embraced. The balance worked. But feminism taught women They needed a man like a fish needs a bicycle. Now, for the first time in US history, the number of women in the workforce has surpassed the number of men. More women than men are acquiring university degrees. Now, I'm not saying that a woman's place is in the kitchen. She can make whatever choices she likes. But the dominant culture has venerated the career woman while denigrating the stay-at-home mom. A woman who chooses to concentrate on motherhood, arguably the most important task a human could fulfill, is treated as a failure. They've turned housewife into a dirty word, when it should be celebrated on an equal footing with the career woman. And again, the figures show that women in positions of high authority at work are more prone to depression, whereas men in positions of high authority are less depressed than men without that authority. Could it be, and forgive me for committing this outrageous thought crime, that traditional gender roles, the stay-at-home mom, the hard-working husband, result in greater happiness all round? And before all you feminists yell, misogynist, let's look at some more facts. Despite the supposed freedom that women's liberation gave females, study after study shows that women have been getting more depressed every decade since the 70s. Women are more likely to consider suicide than at any time in history. So becoming independent from men, sacrificing families for careers, becoming more promiscuous, has only made women more unhappy. It's resulted in more and more of them sailing past the age of 30 with no children, no husband, alone, desperate, in a tiny apartment full of cats. This is a running theme. The more men and women were tempted to play the field and not commit, the more depressed they became. Studies show that the more sexual partners women have had before marriage, the more likely they are to get divorced. Feminism taught women that being promiscuous like men was liberating, when in reality it only leads to more heartache and more depression. Whether you're a man or a woman, being a total slut isn't going to fill that void of emptiness. The only thing that will is genuinely caring for someone who genuinely cares about you. It's very simple. Having an authentic, unbreakable connection with another human being brings contentment. Here's what it comes down to. The state doesn't benefit from happy, secure, married, heterosexual couples who have children. The state doesn't benefit from traditional gender roles. For a start, you can't tax a stay-at-home mom. And you can't indoctrinate a child who has two nurturing, intellectually forceful, emotionally strong parents. That's why there's a financial and sociological motive for the state, and by extension the dominant culture, to shit all over marriage and healthy relationships, while promoting promiscuity and hedonism, producing disparate, lonely people who either bounce around between fleeting, meaningless relationships or merely hop from one bed to the next. And look, I'm not saying that everyone should get married at 18. You've got to be sure. But all the studies show that you're far more likely to obtain happiness in relationships by finding someone you resonate with, being faithful to them, not screwing around with other people, and living an authentic existence. There's no peace of mind in being a player your whole life or being a slut. It's a road to loneliness and depression. Men and women are meant to complement each other. It's our default biological setting. But the dominant culture and third wave feminism has sought to contrive a war of the sexes. Unless both men and women reject this manufactured and incredibly harmful state of affairs, we're only going to become more unhappy and live lonelier, less vibrant, less meaningful lives.
Medo.